When you're a guy in this position, you feel trapped in time because a lot of us, we may be grown, quote unquote, but at the end of the day, we pretty much are children in a lot of ways. Because if you don't have the ability to do whatever you want, when you want, however you want, you are a servant. So if you have to go to a 9 to 5 every day because you have bills you have to pay, if you don't pay those bills, you're homeless. That makes you a servant. It kind of puts you in a perpetual childhood mode in a way. So when they say be an adult and pay bills and all that, I'm looking at people like, are you guys brainwashed? Being an adult means living independently from the system. It means going out there, cutting down trees, making your own house, making your own piping, connected to the lake, have your own filtration system, have some type of solar sun panels on your roof for power, right? Using AI, drones to like scan the area, and do all types of things like that, and like carving your own piece of land out, carving your own piece of existence. But we've been brainwashed to think that serving a corporation and then paying bills to a government is called being an adult. It's called being a servant. But in this world, we've all been brainwashed, for this false sense of security. People want to, people go to the 9 to 5 to have a roof over their heads. But the irony is that they're always at the 9 to 5, so they can't even enjoy the roof over their heads because they're always working to pay the bills. Do you see that? And it's those moments of peace. And I'm guilty as well. We're all guilty, because if we were serious, there'll be a grand rebellion. But there's these moments of peace that we enjoy. You know, there's these little moments of peace, playing your video game, watching your anime, eating your favorite food, having your favorite drink, having a smoothie, having a milkshake, having a cheesecake. Like these are the things that sometimes you think life is worth living until you look at the prison gates that are around you and you're like, damn, maybe it's not. I don't know. And then a lot of us, we live for these small moments and it gives power to the system, you know? If we all just says F all this needs and wants and we all just don't drink water, we don't eat food, we don't, go to the 9 to 5 and we just let ourselves succumb to existence, that'll be a huge play against the demiurge. But most people, they have a strong will to live, even though it doesn't matter how many years you work your job. It doesn't matter how many times you paid your bills, how many times you went to church. Eventually, you're going to take your last breath. It doesn't matter if you're a righteous man or an unrighteous man. You both are going to have the same fate. So what are we really doing here on this planet? You know, we have children to try to carry on our quote unquote legacies. And it's like, what legacy do you have if you're not a millionaire? You know, DoorDash is not a legacy. Working at a warehouse is not a legacy. Doing, anything like that is not a legacy. I mean, people got to work, they got to survive, so they got to do what they got to do, but don't call it a legacy. None of us can have true legacies, you know, because to me, an idea of a true legacy is freedom, the ability to not be inside of us. To not be inside such an oppressive system that's designed to break your mind and designed to break your confidence. You know, this world that we find ourselves in, it's very merciless to guys like us who are not rich. First of all, we're not attractive, and second of all, we're not rich. So our lives are hellacious. We're surrounded by all types of negative energies and synergies, and you know, I just I think whoever created this, they had to be a sick-minded individual. There's nobody with a normal mindset that would create a world as wicked and as evil and as turbulent as this one. Like, if you look at the world carefully and concisely and precisely, you can see that everything, every single thing, man, it's all designed to take energy from you. Your boss yelling at you at work. It's like he didn't have to raise his voice at you like that. What you doing yelling at me, homie? Don't yell at me. I'm a grown man. Don't come yelling at me over some foolishness, because tomorrow is not going to even matter, or it's the same problem. You don't got to yell at nobody because you know that I got to rely on this paycheck. And the demiurge, didn't bless me to be successful like David Dobrik, so I can just do what I want all day and be a millionaire. No, the demiurge wants me to suffer because I'm a true soul, and I have, I have the divine spark, and he wants me to release negative energetic manifestational frequency. So this is what the demiurge wants. The demiurge wants this. He wants us to be in a bad position, because in a bad position we're powerless. How much power do you really have when you're always depressed, when you're always stressed? You don't have nowhere to go. You don't know when your next meal is going to come. How many people know how that feels like to not have a roof over your head and not to have food in your belly, right? And all you have is your voice. All you have is your natural inclinations, propensities, and attributes and talents. That's all you have. Your raw authenticity and talent. That's all. You don't have anything else. But had you had something else, you'd be in a powerful position of power, wealth, and influence. And there's other people who can see your spark of greatness in you. But do you notice that it's always your family that never sees your talents and your ambitions? They look at you like you're nothing. And it sucks because we're grown men, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, if you're a mailman, you do security at a hospital, you work at a grocery store, you work at Foot Locker, you work at, some electronic shop, whatever, But nowadays, a lot of those mom and pop shops are gone. It's just a lot of corporations that replace the mom and pop places. But even if you have those jobs, and even if you are an adult, you pay your bills, you pay your taxes, you do all that, right? Even when you do all that, people will still look down upon you because you're not a millionaire, because you're not driving a Ferrari, because you don't have a mansion, because you don't have all these arbitrary materialistic things. So humans place so much value on things that will never last forever. Our bodies will not last. This incarnation of ourselves in this existence is not going to last. When we pass away, there's a high probability we're going to get our memories erased. We're going to get mind wiped and sent to another reincarnation of this hell in a different body, in a different time, in a different position, and we're not going to even remember this. Or it's another possibility we get sent to hell, or we get sent to Tartarus to be tortured and loosed by the demiurge, even worse, even more. But expect this: when you leave this mortal coil, expect more hell and turmoil. That's just. And I don't know, man. I don't like. It's hard to feel like an adult when you're a guy in this position and you're not a millionaire. Like, you can have your own car, you can have your own apartment, you can have all that, but when your job title, is something that doesn't really attract women, or doesn't really attract respect from your family, and people still talk to you crazy, like, you be a grown man, and people will tell you what you're gonna do, what you have to do, and they'll neglect you. So that's one of the things about being a guy in this position. It's the disrespect you're going to take. You're going to take a myriad of disrespect. You're going to take so much disrespect from people talking to you crazy, like family members, associates, random people and strangers too. You can be at the mall. You can be, at Jack in the Box or Carl's Jr. You can be somewhere like that, and somebody may try to get smart with you or try to get rude with you. Like, part of the reason why I'm so anxious is because I've been in situations where things were calm and then boom, something real just happened right in front of my face. And I went through that multiple times, where it was like a calm, peaceful environment, or it was an environment that was hostile. And for a second, it was like cool. And then boom, something just pops off, and I seen some shit, yeah. And so, like, this is why I'm pretty vigilant. My head's always on a swivel, and in crowds of people, bro, like, my head's like, I'm watching, like, because you don't know what can happen in this world, man. There's so many crazy people out there. There's so many just ridiculous, there's a lot of things out there that I don't want no association with at all, and unfortunately for us in this position, we're associated with being losers. We're associated with being failures. We're associated with being lazy and crazy. But the people that run this world, the ones that go on Epstein's island and they do all this evil wickedness, these people don't seem to be targeted. These people that don't seem to be, being talked about by people. It's like the world would rather crap on a guy who works a regular 9 to 5 than crap on a billionaire PDF file who's engaging in all types of satanic rituals and evilness. And they'll ignore that guy because he has money, wealth, and power. But the person who's just like a lower level, they'll try to put all their strength to try to attack and take this guy down. But they won't mess with somebody who's actually doing evil. It's like, what kind of upside down hell realm is this? You get punished for being a good person and trying your hardest. You're working the job, you're paying your bills, but it's just nothing in your life is working. The job is not paying enough. You need something more than a job in today's world. You need assets. You need assets that appreciate in value. You have to have assets. And I learned this too late in life. I didn't know anything what an asset was when I was younger, like that. I didn't have financial literacy. I had to teach myself through this, through pain and isolation, just my own interest, just thinking about how can I get rich? How can I become a millionaire? How can I make $1 million, man? And then I learned that the 9 to 5 was not the route to go to be a millionaire. You'll never be a millionaire being at a 9 to 5. You have to own a business. You have to have something people like, and you have to have multiple businesses. You have to have multiple revenue streams, right? And even then, it won't be close to a million. Like that. Like you got to be part of the demiurge's favorites to get to that point when you start making millions and millions of dollars and getting that success. Think about some of the most intelligent people you've ever heard and met, or people that are like downtrodden and messed up. Not all of them, but some people that are like poor and broke or whatever. You know, these people have talent. These people have, they have a special perception of looking at life. And then you see these rich kids who they have no talent. If it wasn't for their rich parents and the rich bloodline and family associates, they would be in a poverty position. But for some reason, the universe blessed this person who's an airhead, this person that has just air floating in their brains. Meanwhile, people like us, we got songs floating in our brains. We got books, we got novels about fantasy and adventures like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Like, this is what's going through my head. And if I had the financial resources and the financial stabilization, I can focus on my innovations and creations, and I can focus on establishing my creative endeavors and actually creating like a business model around it in which I can proliferate my profits. But, for people like us in this position, the demiurge doesn't want us to do what we love for a living. Have you ever wondered why that you're at a job you can't stand, or you're in a position in life that you can't stand? You're like, how did I come to this position? Like, how did this even happen? Why is this even happening? Like, why is this even happening? Why am I in this position where it doesn't matter what I do, it's always the wrong answer? It's like, damn, like, why does this world have to be such an evil place, such a vile place, just a wicked place? I wish that I wish this world was a righteous and loving, caring place where if you work hard at what you really, really, really want to do, you can achieve it. And that's a lie they tell people. Oh, if you can be anything you want. No, there's only so many heart surgeons. There's only so many people that can be in an ambulance. There's only so many police officers. There's only so many, people trying to, and well, maybe police officers are a bad example because they just, they pretty much hire, psychopaths at times, but you know what I mean? Certain things like, there's only a limited amount of houses that can be rented out to. Not everybody in America has a house and has a home. Ask me how I know, right? Not everybody has a house to live in. So just if you're in this position and you're neat, and I know you're going through it, you say your parents are disrespectful towards you, whatever, and you're going through it. I know, man. I know it hurts. I've been there. I lived it. I breathed it. I smelled it. I ate it. I anything you can imagine. With the association of being a neat, I've done it. I lived that life, man. And I'm telling you that if you don't figure out what you need to do in life, man, you're going to be in a position where you're going to be homeless and you're not going to have $1 to your name. And you're going to be sleeping in the parks late at night and worrying about police and random people coming up on you trying to hurt you. That's not the way to live for a grown man. All because you wanted to chase your dreams, all because, you don't really fit into the system. And these are valid reasons to not fit into the system, but the system punishes you for that. The system punishes you for nonconformity. The system punishes all those who don't conform to the system. If you try to make your own business and stay away from the boss who yells at you to try to loose you, and stay away from the toxic coworkers who brazenly break your spirit. They brazenly try to attack you. If you want to stay away from that mess, the demiurge is watching, and he wants you to be around it because it's negative energetic manifestation and frequency that's being produced. So you're always going to find yourself in life going through these problems. You're going to be questioning it, like, why did that have to happen? There was no reason for that to happen. There was no reason at all for that person to say this or that person to do this or for this and that or the third to happen. There's no reason why that should have happened. Yeah, there's no logical reason on the surface, but beneath the surface is because there's an evil demiurge that's trying to loose you, that's trying to farm your negative energy. I know it sounds ridiculous at first, but look, you ain't got to listen to me. You ain't got to listen to the Gnostic text, but listen to this. Look into your own life, and within the next week, I guarantee there's going to be bad things that's going to happen to you, and it's going to seem like, hey, that's not an accident. That's like somebody did that on purpose. And you're going to start noticing the patterns. But be careful, because once you start noticing the patterns and you start calling it out, just be careful. If you can notice the patterns, and if you're not ready, you don't have to call it out. But when you notice it and start calling it out and start naming it and calling it the demiurge and all that, it's going to increase. You're going to see even more bad things happen to you in your life, and the goal is to make you just give up and say, okay, fine, demiurge, fine, fine, fine. I'll stop mentioning you. And I'll just look the other way. But you gotta understand, the demiurge doesn't care whether you notice or not. Yeah, if you notice, he's going to increase it a bit. But even if you don't notice it, he's still going to do it, because before you even knew who the demiurge was, you were still having these problems in your life. Before you even knew any of this stuff, you were still having these problems. So the demiurge was still attacking you, whether you knew, regardless of whether you knew or not that he was attacking you. So it doesn't matter. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you might as well stand on the side of truth instead of standing on the side of lies. Today's modern, like the way modern society treats grown men, they treat grown men as children. You can't say this, you can't do that, you can't go check another man. Like you at your job, the boss yell at you, you can't come up to him like a man, face to face, eye to eye, and say, hey, I'm gonna do my job, woo, 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 but don't you ever disrespect me raising your voice at me again. Like you can't just be a man and tell another man that, because then now he's gonna get butt hurt, and he's gonna be sensitive, and he's gonna try to come back and try to do little things to try to get back at you. It's like, that's a female behavior. That's what females do. They do little things to try to get back at you, because they'll start something and then you retaliate, because they started it, and you didn't retaliate hard. You just like, hey man, just get off me. It's like somebody's hitting you on the head with a stick, right? And you're like, okay, hey, can you stop? And they keep hitting you on the head with the stick. And then you grab the stick and then you hit them back on the head with it. But then you just get up and leave. And then that person goes and follows you everywhere you go. You go to another country, they're there. They're watching you, following you everywhere you go. And it's like, I don't even know you. Leave me alone. Like, it's crazy, like, how in this world, when people get power over you, they abuse it. This is why a lot of us NEETs, we dread the 9 to 5, because we already know what's there. People that have jobs now, they tell us how horrible it is. First, it's hard finding a job. Second, it's hard, going through the interviews, and then third, you got to go through this, and it's a bunch of crap. The process of and all for the ability so they can give you scraps, just little scraps, just so you can get a couple of little chemically processed food that's going to delete you in another 10 to 25 years when cancer randomly is found in your body and proliferates, right? Right? I mean, it's bound to happen. We're all eating this biochemical food, They put water in plastic bottles. Water is not supposed to be in plastic. That's how you get those microplastics in your bloodstream, by drinking that bottled water. But hell, I drink bottled water all the time. You know what I mean? Hell, back in my days, I used to drink faucet water. Yeah, I come from that. Yeah, like, I thought when you get older, man, you're going to get all this money and success, and life is going to be on your terms. You get to buy the house, get the girl, go on vacation, have the nice dog, have the family, have the vacation house. You know what I mean? Like be wealthy. And man, reality is like this. You wake up in a place you don't even want to be, paying for overpriced whatever, going to a 9 to 5 that you can't stand, around people who you can't stand even more. And the cycle continues. And then you get paid on your payday, let's say for a full grown man, you make about maybe $2,500 a month. Hell, maybe let's say you make $3,000 a month. Let's say you make $3,100 a month. So some people may think, oh man, that's a lot of money. It's like, you're a grown man. That's chump change to a grown man. A grown man off of $3,100 a month. You know how much rent costs? Rent is like $2,000. And then you got $1,000 left for everything else. No, man. Like, if they want us to be men, they want us to be adults, pay us. Give me a man's money. Let me have a job that pays me about 250,000 a year. Give me that job. And then I'll show you a man. Don't sit there and put me in at McDonald's and then tell me to be a man and pull myself up by the bootstraps. We have people like Elon Musk who's given all these government handouts by the government. If you look at Tesla and his companies, the government just gives him money just to give him money, even without proof of concepts. That's unheard of. Can you imagine if you started a business and the government just gave you $500 million without any type of proof of concept of your product, and they just tell you, hey, build this or do that, you know? And then you can take that money and you can contract it out to a third party to make it for you and this, that. And there's so many booby traps in this world designed to make people stay poor and stay in poverty. And I feel like how the system's designed is it's not really. Back in the days, men were able to, be men. Back in the days of Sparta, men would go into battle. Like that's long gone. Now most men are docile. It's like humans are. It does seem like this, bro. It really seems like there's been the domestication of the human, the same way that you domesticate a horse or you domesticate any type of creature that's going to be utilized for farming. You domesticate them, cow, sheep, chicken. These are things that they get used to being around humans, and then the humans ultimately turn them into food, for nourishment and sustenance. So there definitely has to be entities that feed off our negative energies for sustenance. And they feed off of us and they put us in situations so our souls can produce this negative energy. I mean, look at our lives. I mean, a lot of us, our lives is not normal. The things that we go through, the things that we sing, the things that we have to encounter, it's just not normal. It's not normal to be alone. It's not normal to be isolated. It's not normal to have voices in your head. It's not normal to see things. It's not normal to be broke. Even though being broke is normal, that's becoming the normal, but it's really not. It's not healthy, is what I meant to say. And it's normal being broke, and it's not healthy being broke. It's not mentally healthy for your mind. This is why there's a God that's an asshole and not a real one. The God that runs this, the demiurge, he's looking at your life. He knows what you're going through. He knows you need money. He knows you need a girl. He knows you're homeless. He knows what you're going through, and he did it on purpose so he can loose farm you. He's not your loving father. He's the demiurge. Do you understand? You have been deceived. Everybody's been deceived for thousands of years. Did you know King Henry VIII? He stopped back in the days. Kings they used to pay their respect to the Pope in Rome and all that, right? And King Henry VIII of England, he was marrying. He had a wife that I think it was Catherine of Aragon, if I'm not mistaken. But he had a wife. And he wanted to divorce his wife because she wasn't producing a male heir, right? So he couldn't do it, but then he found the way that he can just declare himself the head of the church, and then he cut the Roman people. He cut the Pope off pretty much, and then made the Church of England or whatever, right? So when he did that, it was a target on his back, and ultimately, he met his demise through a giant ulcer in his leg that never truly healed. And I think he had a son that came on the throne after, and he didn't live too long. And then he had Queen Elizabeth rule, and he had his other daughter rule, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, I said that to say this. Do you see how the church has always been a huge and fundamental factor in ancient lives and ancient kingdoms? There always was the religious part, the religious aspect, the shamans, the prophets, the preachers. Notice how they always held a high position right next to the kings, right next to the people of power, wealth, and influence. That's not an accident. That was done deliberately and on purpose, and it was set there by the archons and the demiurge so they can whisper in those prophets' ears that whispers in the king's ears, even though the demiurge can just go into the king's mind and make him do whatever you want. Just like I hardened the Pharaoh's heart. You remember that from the Bible. So these religious figures are put in these positions to brainwash people. And this has been going on for thousands of years. If you haven't noticed now that whatever God or whatever being created this world is an evil monster and he's an enemy to humanity. This is a being that does not care about what you're going through. He doesn't care if you're poor. He wants you to be poor. He's a God, and he can't open up an opportunity for you to leave that job that you don't like. You're a good person. You're not a bad person. But this same God would turn around and bless somebody who's an evil person more than you with wealth, power, influence. This person doesn't have to go to a 9 to 5 they don't want. They get to wake up every day, make music, get food. They don't have to be in toxic, hostile situations. They don't have to deal with none of that. They can be happy and live their life. Meanwhile, you got to go to this 9 to 5 you don't like. You're broke. You got about $200 left. If you even have that, you probably don't even have $200. You may have $0 left. Hell, you may not even have a banking account. You thought you may be that broke. Some people are that broke. Like so I've been through it all. You know, so yeah, man. And people are going to judge you for that as a man. Like if you're a man and you don't have any type of real wealth or real power or real influence, the world's going to look at you and laugh, and the world's going to treat you like trash, and somebody like me, bro, I've been going through it for a long time, and I've always, and I remember a long time ago, like there was like a story in my family where like, I think my great grandmother or something like that, I think she took somebody's like husband or something like that. And that lady was like a witch, and she put a curse saying that all of your firstborns will never amount to anything in life. I remember, my family bringing that up when talking about me, talking about my uncles, and talking about other people in my family, saying that's why we haven't really achieved anything because there's a curse upon us. And I believe it. I believe there's a curse because I'm too talented not to be a millionaire. I'm too talented not to be around millionaires, not to be around people with the same type of mental capacity and fortitude that I have and contain. I need to be around people that are successful, rich, and wealthy. You know, I should be around people that are wealthy and powerful, so I can become wealthy and powerful as well. Because wealth and power is all this world understands. You're going to have to go to that job to get money. You're going to have to do it whether you want to or not. It doesn't matter how you're feeling in the morning. It doesn't matter if you're depressed because you don't have a woman. You got to make that money and you got to get loosed. So how long before you have millions of men snapping and breaking their minds when they realize that this is going to be their life until the last day that they leave this evil existence? How long before a lot of men start snapping by the millions when they realize there's no point to any of this because you're trying to keep a sinking ship from sinking. Like the lower decks are already flooded underwater and you're at the captain's bridge, and the water's already coming through there, and then you're trying to get a small cup and then get little and scrape out the water with a cup and the ship's making noises. You hear the wood cracking, it's about to burst open. It's going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're trying to get the water. You're trying to save the ship with a cup. That's how it is trying to save modern society. It's already done for. It's already done. Like this whole world is already done for, bro. It's like it sucks. And then one thing I notice is this. Whenever you go through something that's really hellacious in your life, the demiurge has a way to take people away from you that can support you and put you around people that are there to degrade you and to annihilate your confidence. That's one thing that I notice. Whenever you're going through a major change in your life that's going to be more hell and more pain, the demiurge will take people out, around you. Either take their lives or either like just if they offered you some comfort, you know, let's say this person was kind of cool, kind of nice to you, then the demiurge would just put them in the demiurge would just put them in the hospital or just do something to or just have them, move away or do this or just have them not there to support you when you need the support. I've been going through this pretty much, you know, by myself, I don't have no girlfriend that I can hug and kiss me and let me hit it from the back and make that nanny smack, to make me feel a little better about my horrible situation, you know, and that does something to your mind, man. It does something to you when you're a grown man and you don't have your sexual needs met. It does something to you when you've never gotten what you really wanted out of life. I really wanted to be successful. I really wanted to make it, man. But I never met anybody who was as serious as I was. Every time I run into people when it comes to making music or whatever it is, it's whatever it is, not even music. It can be anything, you know? because I got another dream, but I'm not going to say it publicly, you know. But whatever your dream is, you notice that for you it's going to be like a damn. It's like climbing Mount Everest, you know. It's like climbing Mount Everest and getting to the top. Meanwhile, somebody else, they can just teleport to the top, plant the flag, and teleport down, and be home and be home by lunch or be home before dinner. And it's like you got to go through all these hoops and all these booby traps and all these battle hatches. It's like, why is it like that? It's like that because something wants me to suffer. Point blank. Period. And I'm sick of it.